Be ready. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, start. 50 years of continuous service is a major landmark in the life history of any public institution. The Patna Medical College is the oldest medical college in Bihar and has attained high standards in teaching, practice of medicine, and research. The alumni of this college have spread out not only to various parts of this state but also throughout India. They have helped in providing medical care and in establishing new medical institutions. On this auspicious occasion, I would like to congratulate the alumni, the students, and the faculty of this institution on their significant achievements and their service to the country. Bihar has a proud historical past and a rich cultural heritage. I am no stranger to this state. In my long years of public life, I have been intimately association associated with your progress in one capacity other other. Your state has always remained a source of inspiration to me. You have noble traditions from the times of Gautam Buddha, the establishment of the Nalanda University, and the glorious days of Patliputra had enriched the milieu and heritage of the state and the country. In our own times, the struggle for freedom under the inspiring leadership of Mahatma Gandhi gained momentum here in the Champaran district. The Gandhian era produced a leader of the caliber of Babu Rajendra Prasad. I had come to look upon him as my friend, philosopher, and guide. It was my great good fortune to have enjoyed his friendship. He lavished his love and affection on me. His life and work would always remain an inspiration. Today, we have the Loknayak Sri Jayaprakash Ji amongst us. His body is frail, but his mind and spirit are as alert and robust as ever. May he live on for many more years to lead and inspire us. I am sure Bihar, which has produced a galaxy of eminent leaders, has a great future with the great traditions that you have established in this state. I expect that an institution of your standing should give a lead in the matter of medical education and healthcare. A golden jubilee is no doubt on an occasion for rejoicing. At the same time, it is also an opportunity to ponder over the current problems facing college and the future role that it should be playing in the service of the people of the state. We need to address ourselves to that. We live in an age where when there is virtually an explosion of knowledge taking place in science, including medical science. Not a day passes without our hearing or reading about a new discovery, a new vaccine, or a new modality of treatment which has an incremental value over the existing methods of treatment. Even cancer is yielding its deep, dark secrets to the onslaught of medical research. It is a paradox of our times, equally a great human tragedy that these advances are not available to the vast majority of our people, especially to those living in the rural areas and those who are underprivileged. We do not seem to be very successful in applying all the useful knowledge that we have. The result is that there is a vast gap between what medicine is capable of doing and what it is actually doing in the daily lives of people. We may possess the necessary knowledge into effective action at the community level. The children within the first 3 or 4 years of their lives should go blind in both eyes when a small amount of vitamin A could have prevented this. That infants and children should be dying in large numbers on account of our inability to prevent entirely preventable infectious diseases of childhood. That mothers should be dying on account of our correctable anemia. These are some of the examples that are a blot on our society. I therefore that the application of known knowledge and technology for the relief of widespread human suffering should be the first priority. Indeed, it should be the moral obligation of medical education. I do not wish to sound as if nothing has been accomplished in our country in the health field. No doubt, much has been accomplished. Death and infant mortality rates have fallen over the years. Life expectancy has increased. A vast expansion in the number of hospital beds has taken place. We have established a network of basic health services for defined units of the rural population through the rural health center system as a part of total community development. Smallpox has now been eradicated. Malaria was tamed for some time at least, although it is now raising its ugly head again. The ferocity of cholera has been reduced, and so much else has been done in the health field. In the field of medical education, we have laid considerable emphasis on the training of doctors. There were four medical colleges at the beginning of this country, and today there are 100. Sir, the development and maintenance of national highways is fully financed by central government, as this function is included in the union list of the 7th schedule of the constitution. The national highway system, covering length of about 32,000 kilometers, is the main artery of road transport in the country, though constituting only about 2% the total road length. It bears more than one third of the total freight transport by road in the country. Under Section 5 of the National Highways Act 1956, the Government of India is empowered to entrust function of development and central or state government empowered to entrust the function of development and central or state government in pursuance there of field activities such as survey, investigation, and preparation of projects, award and supervision of works have been entrusted to state governments. The central government have been looking after to the other aspects like planning, approval of design and estimate, standardization, monitoring, etc. System is commonly known as agency system, since the state government are paid agency charges presently amounting to 9% of the expenditure incurred by them on works executed on national highway system. The agency system of execution of national highways has not worked satisfactorily. There are large scale disparities in the condition and level of maintenance of national highways passing through different states on account of varying systems of working and levels of competence and diligence in different states of account of poor project preparation, lack of adequate attention to quality control, non-development of contracting industry because of the system of splitting of works into small components, large-scale cost overruns, excessive expenditure booked on works without sanction of revised estimates, non-development of expert cadre for highway sector because of combined cadres working on building roads and other civil engineering activities, and frequent transfers, changes and posting of personnel, inadequate maintenance of highways, large scale urban development, excessive loading of vehicles due to lack of control and lack of function discipline. The management of funds allotted to the estates has not generally been carried out in an optimum manner, resulting in a spurt of expenditure. In the last months of the financial year, the center has no direct administrative control over the executive agency. There have been anomalous situations when central government, being constitutionally responsible, had to defend as fate accomplish certain actions of the agents in various forums such as parliament, PAC, etc., even when not actually convinced about the explanations given by the executing agencies. Similarly, the center has no input in deployment of suitable staff, fixation, and operations